Listen to me carefully. If it was meant for you, it can't leave you. And if it left, it was never yours to keep. There is a peace that comes when you finally understand that destiny is protected by design, not by emotion, not by people, not by popularity. When God assigns something for your life, even time cannot erase it. You've cried over things that walked away. You've questioned your worth when people didn't stay. You've chased closed doors thinking, maybe if you had done more, things would have worked out. But let me tell you something, what is truly meant for you is secured by divine purpose. You don't have to force it. You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to manipulate to keep it. When something is yours by destiny, not even your mistakes can cancel it. Because God doesn't call the perfect, He perfects the called. Some things fell apart not because you were weak, but because it was never part of the blueprint. Most people spend their lives chasing relationships, chasing recognition, and chasing validation from others, only to find themselves empty when those people disappear. The truth is, the pain of losing people who were never supposed to stay is a silent killer of destiny. But hear me, purpose comes before people. That means your life was designed with a mission before anyone had an opinion about it. Your value doesn't come from who likes you. It comes from who sent you. And until you understand this, you will continue to suffer emotionally when people leave or when connections break. Let's bring it home. How many times have you changed your dreams to fit someone else's approval? How many times have you dimmed your light just to make someone comfortable who was never committed to your journey? You adjusted your pace to walk beside people who had no vision. You paused your progress to carry people who never planned to finish the race. And the worst part is, you thought that was loyalty, but what you called loyalty was actually distraction in disguise. Because when purpose is not understood, people become idols. You must learn to separate seasonal access from eternal assignment. Just because someone walked with you for 5 years doesn't mean they're assigned to walk with you into your next 5. If they were only part of your planting season, don't force them into your harvest. See, when God gives you a vision, He already knows who is necessary for that vision to manifest. Everyone else is optional, and some are even obstacles. The danger is not in losing people, it's in holding on to the wrong ones longer than you should. You're not failing because of a lack of talent. You're stuck because of misplaced trust. You think you need support from them, but what you really need is alignment with purpose. Because here's the truth, people don't validate purpose. Purpose validates people. If someone doesn't fit your purpose, their presence will become a burden. And what was supposed to bless you will start to break you. Think of a puzzle. Every piece has a shape, and every shape has a place. You can try to force pieces together, but they'll never fit. Not because they're bad pieces, but because they weren't meant to connect there. That's how life works. Some people are good, even kind-hearted, but they're not your piece. They're not your assignment. And when you try to build your picture with the wrong pieces, you get frustrated, confused, and eventually bitter. But when you start with the vision, with the purpose, you'll begin to see clearly where each piece belongs. You were not born to be liked, you were born to be effective. That means purpose has to come first, before friends, before family, before followers. Look around. Some of the most successful people in the world were misunderstood by their closest circle before the world celebrated them. Why? Because their vision exceeded the comfort zones of those around them. Don't expect people to support what they weren't shown. That's why purpose must become your lens, not your emotions. If a person adds confusion, they're not part of your purpose. If they pull you away from your goals, from your clarity, from your faith, they're not part of your assignment. And don't make the mistake of thinking you owe them an explanation. When a pilot flies a plane, he doesn't ask every passenger if they're okay with the altitude. He just follows the coordinates, because purpose has a flight path. Anyone who can't handle the altitude will naturally fall off. That's not cruelty. That's destiny in motion. Let's go deeper. Even your relationships, romantic or otherwise, must pass the purpose test. Does this connection push me closer to my calling or pull me away from it? Does this friendship fuel my future or feed my fears? You cannot build a kingdom life with people who think like commoners. They will always mislabel your movement as arrogance. They will call your silence pride. They will mistake your boundaries for betrayal. But they don't understand. You're not rejecting them. You're responding to purpose. It's time to prioritize assignment over attachment. You're not here to babysit people's insecurities while your destiny waits. You're not here to entertain opinions while your calling goes unheard. You are here on a divine timeline, and every delay is expensive. Every wrong connection drains time, energy, and vision. That's why purpose must be your compass. When you lead with purpose, the right people will recognize your path and walk beside you without being dragged. Stop apologizing for evolving. Stop shrinking to fit into small rooms when your purpose was built for stages. Stop explaining your growth to people who only knew the version of you that didn't believe. You are not being disloyal. You are being delivered. You are not abandoning people. You are accepting purpose. And the sooner you understand that, the less heartbroken you'll be when God starts to subtract. People will misunderstand your discipline. They'll misinterpret your silence. They'll question your changes. But what they don't see is what you saw, the blueprint, the assignment, the mandate on your life. And here's the secret. When you finally lock into purpose, you stop needing permission. You stop waiting for applause. You stop chasing approval. Because when you know what you were born for, you no longer beg to be included. You build what you were born to create. It's not personal, it's purpose. And when purpose leads, people follow. The right people, the necessary ones, the assigned ones. Because what belongs to your calling will recognize your consistency. And what doesn't, it will fall away. Not because you're hard to love, but because you're too focused to be distracted. There is a silent pressure in today's world, a pressure to arrive, to prove, to perform. You scroll through your phone, and it feels like everyone else is ahead. Someone bought the house. Someone got married. Someone started the business. Someone posted a success story with a smile that seems permanent. And suddenly you start looking at your life like a delay. You start believing the lie that you're behind. Behind who? Behind what? According to whose clock? What if I told you that there is no such thing as behind when you are walking in purpose? What if I told you that your journey is not random? It's divine. You're not late, you're not early. You are right on time, and your timeline is not supposed to look like theirs. Just because someone took off before you doesn't mean you're grounded. Just because they reached the stage doesn't mean they're standing on the same assignment. We compare chapters without knowing the size of the book. But you can't measure your process with someone else's highlight reel. Purpose doesn't rush. Purpose prepares. A mango tree doesn't panic because the apple tree bore fruit first. The sun doesn't feel insecure when the moon takes the night shift. Everything in creation functions on timing. Divine timing. You are not behind, you are becoming. Let me speak to the one who's frustrated because things didn't happen by 25. You thought you'd be further. You thought the marriage would have happened. You thought the doors would have opened. But you're still working, still building, still waiting. And it feels like your prayers are falling into silence. But here's what you didn't see while you were waiting. You were being prepared. What felt like delay was actually development. What looks like nothing is often where everything begins. Let's go deeper. A seed doesn't shout when it's planted. It's buried. It's covered. It's invisible. But something is happening beneath the surface. That's you. You've been in a season that felt like isolation, like obscurity, like nothing was moving. But what you call stuck, heaven calls strategy. Because when God schedules a move in your life, He doesn't ask for public permission. He works in silence so the noise of others doesn't interfere with the purity of your process. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life are born in the background. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness. David was on the backside of a field before he ever touched a throne. And you've been hidden, not forgotten. You've been planted, not buried. There's a difference. Burial is final. Planting is prophetic. And right now, whether you feel it or not, you are in motion. Stop letting calendars confuse your calling. You think because you're 35 and haven't seen the breakthrough that something's wrong with you. But let me tell you, delay is not denial. Delay is often the greatest gift because it keeps you from stepping into something unprepared. There's a blessing in the wait. There's wisdom in the wilderness. There's strength in the silence. And when the time is right, no force can hold back what's appointed for you. Daily life will try to convince you otherwise. You'll see old friends with new titles. You'll see younger people making headlines. You'll see neighbors upgrading cars while you're still budgeting for groceries. But here, this progress is not always visible. Sometimes your greatest growth is internal. It's how you think, how you react, how you pray, how you bounce back. Some people reach the spotlight quickly, but their character couldn't keep them there. But you're being built to last. You're not behind. You're being aligned. And alignment always takes time. You're not waiting because God forgot. You're waiting because the thing He's preparing for you requires maturity, capacity, and clarity. You're waiting because shortcuts kill destiny. You're waiting because the future version of you needs to be stronger than the current version. And that transformation doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows, in the routines, in the quiet disciplines nobody sees. You've been waking up early, praying through anxiety, studying late nights, fighting doubts, encouraging others while needing encouragement yourself. And you think nobody sees it, but heaven saw it. You think it's wasted effort because the breakthrough hasn't come. But purpose never wastes anything. Every tear you cried was watering something. Every no you heard was directing you. Every door that slammed shut was protection wearing a disguise. And when the time comes, everything you thought was in vain will reveal its reason. You've got to stop using the world's scoreboard to measure a divine game. You're comparing your seed stage to someone else's harvest. And even worse, you're placing your faith in a stopwatch instead of trusting the author of time. Your value is not determined by where you are on the calendar. It's determined by what's being developed in your character. So while others rush, you stay rooted. While others panic, you keep planting. Because when your time comes, the world won't just see your success. They'll see the strength that only patience could produce. When you understand you're on a divine schedule, you stop trying to force seasons. You stop opening doors that weren't meant to be touched. You stop compromising to be chosen because you realize What's for you is moving toward you at the same pace you're being prepared for it. The job, the relationship, the opportunity, the platform, it's all being orchestrated for the right moment. And that moment doesn't need your worry. It needs your obedience. It needs your consistency. It needs your faithfulness when no one's clapping. Because that's what divine timing is built on. Not applause, not performance, but quiet, relentless alignment with purpose. Every time a door closes, something inside us questions our worth. We ask, what did I do wrong? Why didn't it work? Why would something that felt so right fall apart so fast? But what if I told you that the closed door wasn't punishment? It was protection. What if I told you that the very thing you're crying about was actually divine signal redirecting your steps before you walked into something that could have stolen your future? See, in life, we're taught to chase opportunities, to knock on every door, to hustle until we see results. But here's the truth nobody teaches. Not every open door is a blessing, and not every closed door is a curse. Sometimes, rejection is revelation in disguise. Sometimes when God shuts a door, it's not because He wants to hurt you. It's because He wants to hide you from what could delay, distract, or even destroy you. You were never meant to walk through every door. Some doors were beautiful on the outside, but broken behind the hinges. Some doors would have led you into rooms filled with confusion, manipulation, false friendships, and mental exhaustion. But in the moment, you couldn't see that. All you saw was loss. All you felt was confusion. But heaven saw what you couldn't, and the slam of that door was a sound of mercy, not misfortune. Let me bring this to real life. You applied for the job, you qualified, you interviewed, you were excited. But the email came back. We regret to inform you. And you were crushed. But you didn't know that 6 months later, that company would go bankrupt. You didn't know that the office environment was toxic. You didn't know that staying where you were would position you for something greater. Something you couldn't even imagine. That closed door, that was direction. Think about the relationship that fell apart. You gave your all. You believed they were the one. You sacrificed. You bent over backward to make it work. But then it ended. And it felt like a piece of your identity broke with it. But what you didn't see at the time was that being with them would have cost you your peace. They loved the idea of you, but not the call on your life. Staying with them would have meant silencing your purpose just to preserve their ego. That heartbreak, that was a closed door saving your soul from spiritual suffocation. Closed doors are not dead ends. They are divine detours. They're not meant to stop your journey, they're meant to steer it. But the problem is, we get so emotionally attached to what we thought would happen that we miss the revelation of why it didn't. Some of the biggest breakthroughs in life only come when you're forced to take a turn you didn't plan for. That's how purpose operates. You think you're walking straight toward the promise, but purpose interrupts and says, not this way. And let's be honest, most of us don't handle closed doors well. We cry, we panic, we try to force it open again. We even beg God to bring it back. But if only you knew what He was shielding you from. If only you could see the unseen, you'd be dancing at the doorstep of every denial. Closed doors make you evaluate your priorities. They make you dig deeper. They force you to trust beyond what's visible. That's why they're directional signs, not just delays. Imagine driving down a road and suddenly seeing a road closed sign. You don't park the car and live there. You reroute. You pull out your map. You look for another way. Life is the same. When a door closes, it's a sign, not a sentence. Here's the part that hurts, though. Sometimes the door doesn't just close, it slams. It shuts in front of everyone. It embarrasses you, it confuses you, it humbles you. But even then, the slam isn't personal, it's providential, because you wouldn't have let go on your own. You wouldn't have walked away if it hadn't forced you to. And sometimes, God has to slam what you won't surrender. He has to cut off what you're still clinging to. Not to break your heart, but to make room for what's aligned with your destiny. You have to learn to stop mourning what was never meant to last. Stop grieving doors that led to nowhere. Stop idolizing opportunities that would have imprisoned your identity. You don't need more openings. You need more discernment. Because not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every connection is a covenant. And not every room you're invited into was designed for your voice to thrive. Closed doors are divine clues. They tell you where you're not supposed to be, so you can spend more time finding where you are supposed to be. Every time something didn't work, it refined your direction. Every time someone walked away, it made space for who's truly assigned to your future. Every silence taught you to listen. Every no trained you to value the yes when it comes. And when you learn to honor the closed doors, you position yourself to walk boldly through the ones that were always meant to open without resistance. We live in a world where everything feels fragile. Relationships break, plans fall apart, promises are forgotten. And because of all this, people begin to think that their purpose must be fragile too, that their destiny is easily derailed, that one mistake, one wrong turn, one delay must mean it's all over. But that's a lie. Your destiny is not fragile. It's not hanging on by a thread. It's not up for public opinion. Your destiny is protected, not by luck, not by chance, but by divine architecture. It's not something you stumbled into. It's something that was written into your existence before you ever knew what you were capable of. What you were born to do is not delicate, it's indestructible. You may feel broken, but your calling is still intact. You may feel confused, but your assignment is still active. Destiny doesn't shatter just because your plan did. Destiny doesn't disappear just because you're tired. It's not that weak. It doesn't need your perfection. It just needs your persistence. You could lose everything, but if you still have your breath and your purpose, you haven't lost anything that matters most. Think about it. You've been through storms you thought would drown you. You've survived betrayals that should have broken your spirit. You've faced rejection that made you question your value. But here you are, still standing. Why? Because there is something on your life that chaos can't cancel. There is a seal on your name that even failure can't remove. The enemy didn't spare you because he was kind. He couldn't stop you because you were covered. Let's talk real life. You've had moments where you lost your way. You've made decisions that almost cost you everything. You've doubted yourself, sabotaged your own growth, walked into rooms you had no business being in. And even when you weren't guarding your destiny was guarding you. There were traps you didn't see. There were attacks you didn't feel. There were doors that looked good, but would have ruined you if they opened. What you thought was bad luck was divine protection. What felt like disappointment was just direction dressed in disguise. Destiny doesn't fall apart when you fall short. That's why some things couldn't kill you. That's why some relationships didn't last. Because your future was too important to be built on unstable foundations. That's why some platforms didn't open for you. Because they would have corrupted your voice before your impact was mature. You were being protected from being exposed too soon. Because when purpose shows up early without character, It becomes a performance instead of a legacy. You weren't being delayed. You were being defended. And don't let anyone convince you otherwise. People may leave. They may mock you. They may say you're finished. But people don't hold the blueprint to your life. They weren't there when your assignment was spoken into existence. They didn't see the conversations that took place about you before you ever had a title. So why would you believe them now? They didn't design your purpose. They can't destroy it. You've got to stop panicking every time something shifts. Destiny doesn't break when your plans do. It simply reroutes through wisdom. The truth is, destiny walks with you even when you walk away from it. It follows you into jobs you hate, into habits you know you need to break, into seasons of doubt and delay. And when you finally decide to get serious, you don't have to restart. You just have to realign. That's why you can feel miserable in situations that look successful on paper. That's why you can be surrounded by people and still feel unfulfilled, because destiny doesn't operate by comfort. It operates by assignment. And if you're not walking in it, everything else feels fake. You can't lose what was written with your name on it. Even if someone else tries to imitate it, they won't have your fingerprint. Even if they mimic your moves, they don't carry your mandate. Destiny doesn't respond to copycats. It's voice activated. That's why you don't need to fight to keep what's already yours. You don't have to compete, manipulate, or hustle to be seen. If it's part of your assignment, it will be preserved for the right moment. And when that moment comes, no demon in hell, no jealous person, no past mistake can block what was divinely designed for you. You've been stressing over things that can't even touch what's truly yours. You've been crying over closed doors that weren't even connected to your blueprint. You've been comparing your timeline to people who aren't even running your race. But destiny doesn't expire, and it's not fragile. It doesn't quit on you when you make a wrong decision. It doesn't disappear because you took a detour. If it's yours, it's guarded. It's covered. It's waiting for your agreement, not your perfection. Even when you feel like your life is in pieces, your purpose is still whole. You don't need a title to prove it. You don't need applause to activate it. You don't need everyone to understand it. What you carry doesn't need validation. It just needs obedience. And obedience isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet faithfulness. Sometimes it's choosing peace over revenge. Sometimes it's walking away when your emotions want to stay. Sometimes it's trusting that even though you can't see it, the plan is still working and the future is still unfolding exactly the way it was written. One of the hardest things to do in life is to wait when everything in you wants to move. We live in a culture that glorifies speed. Fast money, fast results, fast success, fast relationships. And because of that, we think anything that takes time must be broken. But what if the delay isn't denial? What if the silence isn't rejection? What if the slow process is exactly what you need to carry the weight of what you're praying for? The problem is we trust the promise, but we don't trust the process. We want the outcome, but we don't want the unfolding. We want the crown, but not the construction. But real destiny doesn't arrive all at once. It shows up piece by piece, layer by layer, lesson by lesson. And if you force it before it's formed, you won't be able to hold it when it finally comes. Look around you. Everything meaningful in life takes time. A tree doesn't grow overnight. A house doesn't get built in a week. Even a child formed in the womb takes 9 months to develop. Why? Because purpose requires process. And when you interrupt the process, you risk deforming the purpose. Some people are walking around with dreams that were born premature. dreams they pushed out before the right time. And now they're burdened by what was meant to be a blessing. You've got to trust the unfolding. You've got to trust that even when it feels like nothing is happening, something is. You don't see roots growing under the ground, but they're anchoring the tree so the wind doesn't knock it over. That's what's happening to you right now. You're being rooted, anchored, strengthened, not because you're weak, but because what's coming requires stability. We get impatient because we only see what's in front of us. But purpose sees beyond the moment. You wanted it now, but you didn't know that you weren't ready emotionally. You didn't know that what you were praying for would have crushed. You had it come 6 months earlier. You didn't know that the wrong people were still in your circle and would have sabotaged it the moment it arrived. So the delay wasn't punishment. It was precision. You weren't being held back. You were being held together. Let's get real. Sometimes you're so desperate to move forward that you begin to create things out of fear instead of out of faith. You start forcing relationships that aren't aligned. You start chasing jobs you know aren't for you. You start building things just to feel progress. But forced timing leads to false peace. It feels right temporarily, but it costs you deeply later. You lose your peace trying to keep what was never in sync with your season. You have to understand the difference between movement and momentum. Movement is noise, it's activity. But momentum is alignment. It's power with direction. When the timing is right, the right doors open with less force. The right people show up without manipulation. The right opportunities recognize your voice without you having to scream. You don't have to beg for what's yours. You don't have to chase what's assigned. When it's time, what you've been working for, waiting for, and praying for begins to move toward you, not away from you. But here's the key while you're waiting. How you wait matters. Some people wait passively, others wait purposefully. There's a big difference. Passive waiting sounds like, I'm stuck. Purposeful waiting sounds like, I'm preparing. While you're waiting, you're not wasting time. You're building character. You're developing wisdom. You're breaking old patterns. You're unlearning things that no longer serve where you're going. Because if God gave you the future today, but you still thought like your past, you'd sabotage the blessing before it matured. You don't need things to happen faster. You need to grow deeper. The right timing is not just about events aligning. It's about you aligning. You have to be healed enough to carry success without ego. You have to be mature enough to receive love without self-sabotage. You have to be focused enough to steward opportunity without distraction. That takes time. That takes becoming. That takes patience, not passive sitting, but active refining. Every day you are being shaped into the person who can handle the weight of what you asked for. You've been frustrated because you saw the vision so clearly. You tasted it. You felt it. And yet, it seems like the world isn't cooperating. But hear this, just because it's delayed in your life doesn't mean it's denied by heaven. The promise is still valid. The calling is still active. The dream is still alive, but it can't be rushed. If you pick fruit before it's ripe, it looks good on the outside, but it lacks sweetness inside. That's what happens when you force timing. It looks like a win, but it doesn't taste like victory. Timing is not your enemy. Impatience is. Impatience convinces you to settle for counterfeits. Impatience makes you move when you should be still, speak when you should be listening, push when you should be resting. But when you trust the unfolding, you gain peace even in uncertainty. You begin to understand that silence is not absence, delay is not rejection, and stillness is not stagnation. it's strategy. Even when it feels like you've missed your moment, you haven't. Even when it feels like others are ahead, they're not in your lane, you're not being overlooked. You're being preserved. What's taking time is taking shape. And what's taking shape is getting ready to show up in your life stronger, purer, and more powerful than if you had rushed it. Some things didn't leave your life. They were removed. Some people didn't walk away. They were escorted out by destiny. And some chapters didn't end. They were closed for your protection. But in the moment, all you could feel was loss. It looked like rejection. It felt like betrayal. It hurt like punishment. But the truth is, it was preparation. Because what left you was never the destination. It was the lesson. It was the classroom. It was the curriculum for your next elevation. Life doesn't teach through comfort. It teaches through experience. And some of your most painful goodbyes were actually heaven-sent classrooms. You didn't learn patience in a peaceful place. You learned it when everything went silent and no one came to rescue you. You didn't learn discernment in a crowd. You learned it after trusting people who smiled in your face and stabbed you in the back. You didn't learn strength by winning. You learned it when you lost everything and still woke up the next morning. What left you shaped you. And that shaping wasn't punishment. It was positioning. Because when you're carrying something great, you need strong hands to hold it. You need healed vision to see clearly. You need endurance for the weight of the future. You don't get those things from comfort. You get them from experience. And experience isn't always kind, but it's always necessary. You thought losing that relationship was the end. You cried, begged, prayed for it to work. But they left. They ghosted, they betrayed, and it shook you. But what you didn't know at the time is that being connected to them would have cost you your peace, your clarity, your purpose. They weren't just a person. They were a distraction dressed as a blessing. Staying with them would have required you to shrink yourself, compromise your standards, silence your truth. But their exit taught you something. You don't have to settle to be loved. You don't have to be tolerated when you were built to be treasured. Their departure was your lesson in self-worth. Some of you lost jobs. You were loyal, you showed up. You gave your best, but they downsized, they cut you off, they chose someone else. And you started questioning everything, your abilities, your value, your identity. But what you didn't know was that job was only meant to carry you for a season, not define your future. You were sent there to learn discipline, systems, structure, not to die in a cubicle. That job was your classroom. But your calling is your reward. And the dismissal was the transition you never saw coming, but always needed. Lessons don't always show up in classrooms. Sometimes they show up in heartbreak, in closed doors, in silent seasons. But every loss has language. Every exit carries information. When something leaves your life, you're not supposed to fall apart. You're supposed to lean in and listen. What was this teaching me? Was it resilience? Was it wisdom? Was it how to love myself? Because every lesson you master becomes a tool for your next level. And every tool you gain becomes your advantage in the places you're about to walk into. Some of you lost friends, people you thought were family. You shared secrets, made memories, fought battles together. And then, one day, they switched up. Started acting different, became distant, and you were left wondering if it was something you did. But what you didn't realize was that their expiration date had arrived. They were only assigned to a past version of you. But the new version, the version that's stepping into purpose, growing in wisdom, raising standards, that version intimidated them. And instead of growing with you, they backed away from you. But even their absence was a lesson in discernment, a lesson in alignment, a lesson in learning how to walk alone without feeling abandoned. We often cry over what we lost because we don't yet see what we're about to gain. But there's a universal principle. You must understand nothing leaves your life unless something greater is trying to enter. Sometimes the subtraction is the seed of promotion. Sometimes the cutting away is how God makes room for overflow. You can't hold a harvest if your hands are full of dead fruit. Letting go wasn't a loss, it was a launch. When something walks away, don't chase it, analyze it. What did it teach you? What did it reveal? What part of you needed that experience to grow? Because when the reward comes, and it will match the maturity you gained from that lesson. The new door will fit the refined version of you. The new opportunities will honor the wisdom you had to fight to receive. The new relationships will see you clearly because you now know how to see yourself. This is why you must stop grieving things that were never meant to last forever. Not everything in your life was meant to stay. Some things were meant to teach. Some people were meant to press you so you could become more. Some situations were meant to stretch you, break your patterns, wake up your sleeping potential. And when their assignment in your life was complete, they exited not as a punishment, but as a graduation. The pain you went through wasn't wasted. The tears you cried weren't empty. The sleepless nights, the quiet suffering, the inner battles, all of it was doing something deep in you. It was breaking chains you didn't know you had. It was healing wounds you never wanted to face. It was building a new version of you that can stand taller, dream bigger, and move wiser. And the beauty of life is this: when the lesson is complete, the reward doesn't come as compensation. It comes as confirmation. Confirmation that you endured. Confirmation that you grew. Confirmation that even when everything walked away from you, you never walked away from purpose. So now you understand. What was meant for you can never miss you. And what missed you was never meant for you. Life is not about chasing, begging, or forcing. It's about aligning, preparing, and becoming. And when you become who you were born to be, what's yours will recognize you. What's yours will be magnetized to you. What's yours won't require you to shrink, beg, chase, or compromise. It will honor the lessons you've learned. It will respect the journey you've survived. It will flow into your life without chaos, without confusion, without manipulation. Because what is real doesn't have to be forced. Listen to me, you didn't come this far just to come this far. Every tear had a reason. Every disappointment was a setup. Every delay was divine. You were being carved out, refined, trained, pruned. Why? Because average wasn't your assignment. Mediocrity was never your birthright. You were born for impact, for purpose, for legacy. And the road to greatness is never paved with comfort. It's paved with decisions that most people are too afraid to make. You chose to keep going when quitting was easier. You chose to forgive when bitterness felt justified. You chose to rise up when life knocked you flat. That's strength, that's purpose, that persistence, that's destiny in motion. So don't you dare look at your scars like they're proof you're broken. No, your scars are your resume. They are the receipts of battles fought and won in silence. The world may not have seen your struggle, but the reward knows your name. The world rewards those who refuse to bow to fear, who refuse to let loss define them, who understand that rejection isn't the end. It's redirection. And redirection is often the greatest gift life can give you, because sometimes what feels like a detour is actually the main road to destiny. The closed door wasn't denial. It was protection. The betrayal wasn't the enemy winning. It was life exposing what couldn't go with you. You are not a mistake. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are right on schedule, not the world's schedule, not social media's timeline, but divine timing. Everything you need is already aligned with your obedience, your growth, and your faith. So keep walking, keep evolving, keep preparing. Because when what's meant for you arrives, you won't have to chase it. You'll just have to be ready to receive it. Repeat this with me. I will not miss what was meant for me. I will not mourn what was not mine. I will not delay my destiny begging for what was already leaving. I will grow. I will learn. I will rise. Because when you live with intention, when you trust that nothing good will ever pass you by, you stop panicking over people, timelines, and outcomes. You realize that nothing can rob you of what was tailored, made for your soul. Not time, not failure, not even your past. The comeback that's forming in your life is going to silence every doubt, every critic, every lie spoken over you. You're not waiting on a breakthrough. Your breakthrough is waiting on the fully aligned version of you. You're not hoping for the right people. The right people are hoping you keep becoming. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to hesitate. This is the time to become unapologetically you. Because the future you're stepping into cannot afford a half-healed version of you. It needs your full fire, your full clarity, your full identity. If no one has told you today you're not too late, you're not too broken, you're not too far gone, you are still the one. You are still chosen. You are still destined. And what is for you is on the way. You don't have to chase it. You just have to keep becoming the kind of person who's ready to carry it. The reward was never outside of you. It was always within you, waiting for you to believe again, rise again, and walk boldly into the purpose that has your name on it.